last week I called it love, and I've really been enjoying it, calling that love. Kind of love with a capital L. Right? So consider that is, there is this thing that is in you and in each of us and in all things, not just in people. It is essential. It is the divine essence, the spiritual essence in all things. And the work, the inner work of spiritual practice, at least from what I can see, is to maintain a connection with that love, with that essence in all circumstances and all times. Okay, that's the work. To stay connected with the love, because it's who we are. It's who we are. And so to stay with and in who we are, that's what happiness is. That's what a spiritual life is. So the next piece of this is, well, how in the heck are you going to do that in this crazy world we live in? Right? I mean, I don't need to tell you how crazy it is, right? The wars, the prejudices of all kinds, the unfairness of all kinds, the inequality of kinds, the violence. Not to mention that we are, as quickly and with as much determination as we can, destroying our own habitat, and the other creatures who live on this earth with us, and we could go on and on and on. Okay, so what about that? If we are going to live as true spiritual people, if our practice and our spiritual life is true, it has to manifest through the form. We can't just go hide out like in a cave or something. Like that kind of thing is good. I hid out in a cave, metaphorically, for 18 years at a monastery. I checked out of society. No reading, no writing, no relationships, no friends, no nothing, basically, except food and work and meditation. That was basically, and sleep. That was basically it. So I did that for a really long time. Well, and the reason I did that was because I needed training. I needed to learn how to be present in the essence, because I didn't know how to do that, and I couldn't. So for a period of time, that's really useful, but not as a way of life. That's how I see it anyway, not as a permanent thing. They'll say, is it irresponsible not to be outraged? It's like the polar bears. That's one of my personal tragic favorites. What about the polar bears? Isn't it irresponsible not to be outraged? It's like, no, it's irresponsible to be outraged. And here's why. Because if you looked, if what I'm saying is true, that the cause of all of our problems on this earth are human problems. No, I'm not talking about, volcanoes and that kind of thing. But, our human problems, if it's true that the cause is we've lost touch with the love, we've become an ego that is acting selfishly and violently, because that's where the violence comes from, right? It's from that place. If that's the cause, then any time we are participating in that, we are contributing to the problem, right? So-and-so says something that is upsetting to you, or something happens that's upsetting. And if you're willing to be upset, if you're willing to be angry, and you want to hurt people, right? It's hard to admit, but when you get outraged, like you want to hurt people, you want to hurt the people who are causing the hurt. But that's no good. If you let yourself go there, you are contributing to the problem. If you can separate the two, that's where compassion comes from, right? Because I can look at you, and somebody's doing something really awful. I can look at that person and say, I hate what you're doing, but I don't hate you. I love you, right? And that's where the compassion comes from, because if you can see past a person's conditioned behaviors into the person, you feel a connection with them. You can act generously towards them, and you can do whatever needs to be done in order to address whatever the problem is. So I'm not saying at all that you shouldn't feel. I'm saying feel. And our whole society is set up to avoid feeling. You know that, right? And these days we have, better tools for not feeling than we've ever had in history. You got this little device in your pocket, right? You're having some kind of feeling, oops, and you look at something, right? Yeah. But we need to feel. Our feeling is what connects us to each other. It's what awakens our compassion and our understanding for each other. We have to feel, but we have to avoid going to a place of hatred. for each other, and anger and upset and all the things we do. We need to stay in the place of love. It's kind of like I live inside, and we all live inside, a great big laboratory. Okay? And in this laboratory, we get to experiment. We get to try things out and find out what happens. And the work in this laboratory is to learn to experiment and learn how to always be in the love in all circumstances. That's the work we're here to do, I think. And I know the alternative. I know the experience of acting out of ego and doing something really awful. Don't you? There's a sacred path through this world. It's the path of paying attention. It's a path of being present, being here. Like in the meditation I did a minute ago, just that little bit. Keeping the attention here. If you can keep the attention here in the love, then you are love. That's what we're going to work on some in the workshop that's coming up this afternoon. It's kind of the how of this, the practical practice part of this. Like, how do you actually do this, like on a moment-to-moment basis? But to me, that's the work. That's what we're here to do. I would say that's what we're here to do on this earth, is to transcend the separate ego that we were taught to believe in and learn how to live in the love. And then bring that love to the world that we live in and offer that love. Because if there is any kind of chance that we will save ourselves as people from everything that's going on, the tragedy of what's going on in our world, it will be because of the love. It will be because people can let go of their separate ego and join together in love.